Imagine a warm, quiet night in a small town where everyone knows each other. A place where life moves slowly and peace is the norm. But now, imagine a figure lurking in the shadows, watching, waiting. The silence of the night is shattered by screams, the flicker of fear in the air. The community sleeps, unaware that one of them won't wake up. This is not a horror film. This is real. In 1946, the town of Texarkana, straddling the Texas-Arkansas border, was gripped by terror as a masked killer hunted down victims under the cover of moonlight, leaving a trail of blood, fear, and unanswered questions. The Phantom Killer was never caught. This is the story of the Texarkana Moonlight Murders, a case that has haunted both sides of the border. For over 75 years, Texarkana was a sleepy town, bisected by the state line between Texas and Arkansas. It was a place where people left their doors unlocked, where couples would park along deserted roads to steal a few quiet moments together under the stars. That all changed in the spring of 1946 when a series of brutal attacks shook the town to its core. Between February and May of that year, a masked killer targeted young couples, attacking them in their cars late at night. The attacks began on February 22nd, when Jimmy Hollis and Mary Jean Larry were brutally assaulted after being ambushed while parked on a secluded road. Both survived, but their accounts were harrowing. Hollis was beaten nearly to death, and Larry was chased into the woods and assaulted. The attacker was wearing a mask, reminiscent of a burlap sack with eye holes cut out, earning him the chilling nickname, the Phantom. On March 24th, the Phantom struck again. This time, his victims weren't so lucky. Richard Griffin and Polly and Moore were found shot to death in their car. Griffin had been shot twice in the back of the head, while Moore was found in the back seat. Their car was parked on a lover's lane, and the grisly scene suggested they had been caught by surprise. Much like Hollis and Larry had been, the killer's method was as eerie as it was brutal, attacking unsuspecting couples in isolated areas, always late at night. On April 13th, another couple, Paul Martin and Betty Jo Booker, became the Phantom's next victims. Martin was found on the side of the road, shot 4 times, while Booker's body was discovered hours later, 2 miles away. She had been shot twice. Betty Jo, a talented saxophone player, had just performed at a local gig that evening before meeting Martin. Her saxophone would later be found discarded in the bushes, a chilling reminder of the ordinary night that turned tragic. The final known attack came on May 3rd, and this time, the killer deviated from his pattern. Virgil Starks and his wife, Katie Starks, were at home when the Phantom struck. Virgil was sitting in his armchair when a bullet pierced the window, striking him in the head. Katie, hearing the commotion, rushed into the room only to see her husband slumped over. The killer shot her twice, but she managed to escape to a neighbor's house despite her severe injuries. Katie's survival was nothing short of miraculous, but her account did little to help investigators close in on the Phantom. The Phantom's change in tactics, from targeting young couples in cars to attacking a couple in their own home, sent shockwaves through the community. Suddenly, no one felt safe. Not even in their own homes. The panic that gripped Texarkana was palpable. Residents began locking their doors, something many had never done before. Some even resorted to boarding up their windows and arming themselves with shotguns. Local authorities, overwhelmed by the fear sweeping the town, called in the Texas Rangers to help with the investigation. Manuel "Lone Wolf" Gonzalez, a legendary Texas Ranger, took charge of the case, promising that no stone would be left unturned in the hunt for the killer. Despite an extensive investigation, the Phantom Killer evaded capture. More than 400 suspects were questioned, but none were charged. The lack of clear leads, coupled with the killer's ability to seemingly vanish into the night, gave the case an almost supernatural quality. People began to whisper that the Phantom was no ordinary killer, but a ghost, slipping in and out of the darkness like a shadow. The case grew cold, but the fear lingered. Even after the attack stopped, Texarkana remained on edge. The town's eerie reputation grew over the years, especially after the case was dramatized in the 1976 cult classic horror film The Town That Dreaded Sundown. The film blurred the lines between fact and fiction, but it reignited interest in the case, cementing the Phantom Killer as one of the most terrifying unsolved mysteries in American history. But who was the Phantom Killer? Many theories have emerged over the decades. Some believe the killer may have been a local man who simply stopped killing. Others think he was a drifter who left town after the attacks. One popular theory points to a man named Yowl Swinney, a petty criminal arrested for car theft shortly after the murders. Swinney's wife claimed he was the Phantom, but she later recanted her statement. Without enough evidence to tie him to the crimes, Swinney was never charged with the murders. He died in prison years later, but some still believe he was the Phantom the Texarkana Moonlight Murders endure, not just because of the brutality of the crimes, but because of the deep psychological scars they left on the town. Texarkana wasn't a major city. It was a close-knit community where everyone knew each other. The idea that someone from the shadows could turn the safety of that small town into a nightmare struck fear into the hearts of people across America. The Phantom Killer has never been caught. No definitive answers have ever been found. This unsolved mystery still haunts Texarkana, its unresolved nature stirring the imagination of true crime enthusiasts and keeping locals on edge. Even after all these years, the Texarkana Moonlight Murders remain one of the most disturbing and puzzling unsolved cases in American history. The Phantom Killer's identity has been debated, theorized, and investigated, but the truth remains elusive. Today, Texarkana still remembers those dark spring nights when fear gripped the town and the moonlight seemed to hide a sinister figure watching from the shadows. And now, over 7 decades later, the question still lingers. Is the Phantom Killer still out there, lurking, watching? Or did he simply disappear into the night, leaving behind a mystery that may never be solved? As the saying goes in Texarkana, the town that dreaded sundown still dreads what hides in the dark. The Texarkana Moonlight Murders cast a shadow over the town that has never truly faded. Even today, the question of who committed these brutal crimes remains unanswered, leaving a chilling legacy. Every theory proposed, from local suspects to traveling serial killers, has lacked the conclusive evidence needed to solve the case. For some, this mystery is what makes the Texarkana story so haunting. There is no justice, no closure. It's a puzzle that lives on, beyond the lives of the victims and those who knew them. Texarkana, once a town of peace and quiet, is now forever linked to this dark chapter in history. The memory of the Phantom Killer lingers in the air, in the stories passed down by locals, and in the notoriety that the case still attracts. Though life has moved on, the fear that gripped the town in 1946 will always remain, a ghostly presence that ensures Texarkana will never forget. The influence of the Texarkana Moonlight Murders has seeped into popular culture in ways few true crime cases have. The Town That Dreaded Sundown film, loosely based on the murders, has cemented the case in horror film history. The film itself plays a strange role in Texarkana's modern identity, as it is still screened annually in the town. This unusual tradition, Texarkana residents watching a film about the horror their own town endured, highlights how the line between history and myth has blurred over time. Despite this, the movie remains a fictionalized account. It captures the paranoia, the dread, and the palpable fear of a town under siege, but it doesn't offer answers. That's the most unsettling part of the Texarkana Moonlight Murders. The narrative doesn't have a neat ending. It is a tale of fear without a clear resolution, a nightmare that lingers long after waking. What keeps the Texarkana Moonlight Murders in the public eye isn't just the gruesome nature of the crimes, but the fact that the case remains unsolved. Unsolved mysteries, by their very nature, allow the imagination to fill in the gaps. Who was the Phantom? Was he someone known to the community, or a drifter who blew in with the wind? Did he simply stop killing, or did he die, his secrets taken to the grave? These questions continue to captivate true crime enthusiasts and professional investigators alike. The enduring mystery keeps the case alive despite the passage of time. Theories have abounded, but no definitive proof has ever emerged. The lack of closure leaves the door open for speculation, and as long as that door remains ajar, the Phantom Killer will haunt the collective consciousness of Texarkana. And beyond, even though the Texarkana Moonlight Murders remain unsolved, it's crucial to remember the victims and the impact these tragedies had on the community. For every true crime case, there are real people whose lives were shattered by violence. The victims of the Phantom Killer were more than just names in a case file. They were beloved family members, friends, and neighbors whose futures were stolen. As time passes, it can be easy to get caught up in the intrigue of the unsolved mystery and forget the human cost. True crime stories can serve as a reminder of the fragility of life, of the evil that sometimes walks among us, unseen, like a shadow in the night. The Texarkana Moonlight Murders remain a chilling reminder that some mysteries may never be solved. The Phantom Killer, whoever he was, brought fear and chaos to a small town, altering its history forever. Texarkana, once a place of quiet peace, became a town that dreaded sundown, and it is a legacy that endures to this day. In the end, the Texarkana Moonlight Murders leave us with a terrifying thought. Sometimes, monsters don't wear masks. They simply disappear into the night, never to be found. And maybe, just maybe, they're still out there, waiting for the next moonlit night to strike again.